Can everyone hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Affirmative on hearing you.
There we go. Now I can hear.
Okay, well, it looks like it's 6. Kathy, I think is on the phone. Can you hear us, Kathy?
Jeez.
Hi, Ellen. It's Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
You can hear me. Good.
Yes.
Okay. So we will go ahead and I'd like to call this meeting to order for our meeting for January 26, 2021. As a reminder, if you are on our Zoom meeting as a participant, please put yourself on mute unless you are speaking. We are currently live streaming this meeting on the city's YouTube channel and the Lake County PEG TV live stream YouTube channel. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Catherine Davis,
Here.
Vice Chair Robert Coker,
Present.
Commissioner Aaron McCarrick,
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Wilson. Here. And Commissioner Fawn Williams.
Here.
Okay, so for everyone that's present, if we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And since I can't see what we're doing, can somebody lead that for us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
of the United States of America,
of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
While we are operating under these new meeting guidelines, I will explain our meeting procedures. Agenda items will be open for public comment before final action is taken via Zoom or email. Because we are operating in a virtual setting, I will call on my colleagues one at a time to speak. After commission deliberation, I will call for a roll call vote by the city clerk, or in this case, by our assistant planner. So it would be, let's see, I apologize here. So our first item of business is for a committee appointment, consideration of appointment to fill the vacancy positions on the zoning code update ad hoc and the Burns Valley Park committees. If we can have a staff report on that.
Yes, I'd like to introduce you to the city's new senior planner, Mark Roberts. He's going to present the staff report.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So as you mentioned, the subject is a committee of appointment. And a brief summary, so these committees play a vital role in providing guidance by reviewing the city's zoning code updates, design review manuals, and project developments to help ensure the regulations, ordinances, and/or developments meet the city's visions. So staff foresees a significant progress in the up and coming year, developing a thriving park system and citywide design standards, and re-emphasizing the need for community direction to fully establish these advisory committees. So we're here recommending today to appoint members to the zoning code update ad hoc committee, which there's 2 positions, and 1 position to the Burns Valley Park Committee. And that's it.
Yeah, so if I could just provide a little bit more background. So Chair Bean was representing the commission on the zoning code ad hoc, and at one point Commissioner Wilson participated, I guess, before she was a commissioner. But now that Chair Bean has retired, so the zoning code has been completed and adopted by the city council, but there's still some work related to the design guidelines, and so we'd like to keep the committee active. And so maybe we could just start with that one first and see if there's 2 commissioners who want to volunteer to serve on that committee.
This is Robert Coker. I would consider, when do they meet?
It's just as needed, Robert. We don't have any meetings scheduled, but I would expect over the next 6 months or so, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings or something like that, probably. Wouldn't be a huge commitment, but we try to meet maybe for a couple of hours, just to try to get a lot of work done, and so we don't have to have a lot of separate meetings.
Well, I'll volunteer for that position.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson, do you have anything?
I want the Burns Valley Park Committee, if there's no other taker.
Okay, how about Commissioner Williams?
Oh, you're muted. Commissioner Williams, you're muted. I think what we heard you say is, yes, I would love to volunteer.
That's what I heard too. Congratulations, Fawn.
I think Lisa and I are going to have to arm wrestle for the Burns Valley Park, but no, if Lisa wants the Burns Valley Park, I'd be happy to be on the zoning ad hoc. That's fine.
Okay. Who am I missing here? McCarrick.
Fully support both of those.
So I don't know if you want to give any additional background. I mean, so on the park piece of it, but the city purchased about 31 acres there north of Safeway, and are developing or starting to develop that into a mixed use complex, including new softball fields and some soccer fields and other amenities that would be relocated from Redbud Park. And so the city council wanted to create a committee to kind of work on that design. And so they had requested 1 planning commissioner be appointed to that committee. So I can address any questions you may have related to the specifics on that, but that's kind of the plan. And we would like to have our first meeting probably in the first week of February.
Do we have any public comments on this agenda item?
Fawn, I'll trade you based on my work commitment. I've got 2 new reservation systems launching and some other obligations coming up. So if the park's going to start sooner, if you'd be interested in considering a switch, then I'll move to zoning.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that okay with you, Chair?
Yeah.
Chair Davis? Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so if we haven't received any public comment thus far on this, if you're in the Zoom room and you want to provide any public comment, please just raise your hand. Doesn't look like anyone wishes to comment on this item. Chair Davis.
Thank you. So since there is no public comment, I will take a motion for this item. We have Commissioner Coker and Commissioner Wilson to be on the zoning ad hoc committee, and Commissioner Williams to be on the Burns Valley Park Committee. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, I believe we have a motion by Commissioner Wilson and a second by Commissioner, was it Williams?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard not being able to see. And can we have a roll call on that?
Yeah, Chair Catherine Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Robert Coker,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron McCarrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Lisa Wilson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fawn Williams.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Our next item up is for determination of general plan consistency for the conveyance of property located at 16564 4th Avenue, known as Assessor Parcel Number 042223-59. And can we have a staff report?
Yeah, so the city recently got donated a piece of property in the avenues out on 4th Avenue. It's currently vacant. It is, there's never been any kind of structures on it. It's a standard size lot, 50 by 100. It has a couple oak trees on it, but other than that, like I said, it's vacant. And the city just needs the planning commission to make a determination of general plan consistency in order to accept the piece of property. It's zoned R1. We're probably planning on using it in the, potentially in the homestead program or something like that. But nothing's been solidified.
Yeah, and just add briefly that Chair Davis brought to our attention that there's some issues with the ownership of the property and title company being able to convey it. So we're working through the details on that end, but we would recommend that the commission go ahead and approve the general plan consistency report, and then, we'll work with the owner to get the things resolved that are necessary to be able to convey title to the city.
Thank you. Do we have any questions by the commissioners?
This is Commissioner McCarrick. Raise your hand. Want us to just speak up, or because you can't see us?
Please, I apologize. I should ask for each of you individually. So if you wouldn't mind going first.
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair. And I had a couple questions. So the first one was the site map showed it in what looked to be very similar size lots. Were those lots going to be, I'll list all my questions and then I'll go on mute. Are those other lots designated for the homestead project as well? And then are there other property owners? Does every property owner have the potential to donate to the homestead program? And is it up to date on the property taxes? Those are my questions.
Okay, so I think, so maybe I should pull up a map for you to look at this. So, we frequently get property owners who reach out to us and are interested in donating their properties because they're like this, they've been in the family for many years and they don't have any particular use for the property. And so because of the homestead program, we have been, a lot of times over the years, we just said the city doesn't want any more properties, but primarily because of the need for housing and the homestead program, I've asked our staff to review each one that we get that option on, make sure that, obviously we aren't going to take anything that has back taxes on it. We check all code enforcement violations and all that type of stuff, do a review. make sure there's no issues. And then willing to accept the property. This particular one, I want to share my screen, is probably unlikely to be used in the homestead program. It's located down in this area of the very southern part of the avenues and just north of Dam Road. And as you can see from this map, there's nothing out there except for too much vegetation and a lot of people dumping trash and so forth. This area is an extremely high concentration of tax defaulted properties because there's not adequate roads, there's no utilities out there. And so as it sits, this area is kind of useless for development. So the city's sort of unofficial plan is to, one, we've tried to negotiate with the county to be able to purchase some of the defaulted properties so that we can get a block of them. Once we have a decent number in this area, we're going to proactively reach out to all the property owners and ask them if they're interested in donating those lots. And then our plan would be to merge a lot of these parcels so that there may be a few houses that could be developed, or perhaps more likely try to encourage some type of agricultural development in that area, such as, a vineyard or something like that, because it really is not suitable for single family dwelling development like it's been laid out. So that's some background. Hopefully I addressed all the questions that you asked.
Commissioner Wilson, do you have any questions?
Alan answered my question because I looked at the report, on our agenda, and I thought that does not look like a desirable piece of property. And then I thought it was part of the homesteading, but now I understand what might happen in the future. So I'm in support of us taking that.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the city, we don't really want these type of properties. It's just increased liability that we're accepting. But on the other hand, there's no way out of this cycle if we just keep ignoring this stuff. And so, we feel like we have to do something. And so this is, one small piece in the long-term puzzle of trying to gain ownership of as much of that as we can so that we can flip it into something useful.
Would it be potential parkland, a park possibly?
It could be. It could be, yeah.
A green zone? Yep.
This is Erin again. Thank you, Alan, for answering those questions. And I definitely support the homestead program. I think it's really creative, and I support the other creative ways that land could be used, either consolidated for ag or for green space or what other use needs to be. The only thing that I would have with this resolution, I don't have it in front of me, but the staff report seemed to really indicate that it would be used for homestead. So if there was a way to, I don't have it in front of me, but if that's really specific in there, maybe if we could change the language to say that it might be used for homestead, but it may also be used for other things, other uses.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really say anything related to that in the resolution itself. But if there's something that the commission wants to add to the resolution, I mean, it's pretty simple. It just says that the acquisition of the property is consistent with the adopted goals, objectives, and policies of the general plan. So, I think it's probably okay, but, happy to add a little bit of language in there if the commission desires.
It does say, though, the city intends to use the property in its new homestead program to be gifted for residential development.
In the staff report, not in the resolution.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear that we weren't either tying the city to that or or that it was misleading to the public or anything about that,
Okay. Well, I would say for the public record that it's unlikely to be used as part of the homestead program. So apologies for the confusion on that.
I do have a question. Could this possibly be used for the tiny homes? Since the lots are so, 50 by 100.
Well, a couple of things on that. So there's no utilities in the area. So in order to develop a residence on the property, you would have to use a well and a septic system, which it's not physically possible to have a dwelling, a well, and a septic system on a 50 by 100 lot. So that's one of the things I mentioned. It's possible that if we acquire some additional lots, that there could be some larger lot development for single family residential. The second thing, we had a lot of discussions about tiny homes with the city council and adopting the zoning ordinance. And unfortunately, some of the press that came out about that talked about tiny homes, but the eventual decision of the city council does not allow what's technically considered a tiny home by itself on a single family or on a single lot. Tiny homes, which is less than what? 400 square feet, could only be installed as an accessory dwelling unit.
Do you have anything else, Vice Chair Coker?
No, I was just under the understanding that the accessory dwelling would be there has to be a home, and then you can have an accessory dwelling. But I was under the understanding that the city was going to allow 400 square feet as a single family residence. So evidently I was wrong in that.
Well, you're not wrong in that. It's just to be considered technically a tiny home, it has to be less than 400 square feet. So while smaller dwelling sizes are now allowed, tiny homes by the definition of HCD or whatever it is, are not allowed as a standalone residence.
So if the person decides they want to build a 420 square foot home, that's allowed as a single family residence without.
400 was the final one, I think it was. I'm pretty sure 400 was the number
Correct.
that we settled on. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
What's that?
So a 400 square foot home is considered a single family resident on a lot.
Yes, I mean, the caveat with that is you have to apply for an administrative use permit in order to build something smaller than the standard, which is 750 square feet.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions by the commissioners? Are there any public comments?
We have not received any public comments. If anyone on the Zoom call wishes to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Does not look like we have anyone wishing to make a public comment.
Thank you. Since the public comment period on this item is now closed, I'll ask the commissioners if they have any other further comments for deliberation on this item. Commissioner Wilson?
No, thank you.
Commissioner McCarrick?
I'm muting. I do support this. I assume if there was a more creative, or no, not a more, if this property does get put into a larger use, that the commission votes on it again.
Well, I guess it would depend on what that use is. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, let's just say that 100 lots were donated to the city and we we merged them all together and sold them to someone and they built a house on it, that probably wouldn't come back to the commission. Now, if we sold it to someone and they developed a vineyard on it, then that would require a permit, probably, that would be approved by the commission. So it kind of depends on what that eventual use is, but.
Okay, and I know I don't want to like beat this down, but if it does end up going to the, for some reason goes to the homestead, is that just something that happens, or do we know if that happens, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's zoned for residential purposes, so there's not any additional permit approval required by the commission for that. They would just have to apply for a building permit essentially to build the house.
Thanks. I do support this.
Commissioner Williams
No more questions.
and Vice Chair Coker.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
And for me, I know that basically we're just approving that it is consistent with the general plan. My only issues are, you know, obviously making sure title is clear before the city were to take title on that. So if we have no more comments for deliberation, I would like a motion for this item.
I'll make the motion. This is Commissioner Wilson. I make a
Thank you.
motion that we adopt the resolution number PC 2021-01, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Clear Lake General Plan Consistency Determination GPCD 01-2021 of the acquisition of property described as APN 042-223-590-000 at the address of 16564 4th Avenue.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
And may we have a roll call, please?
Chair Catherine Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Robert Coker,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron McCarrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Lisa Wilson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fawn Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Our next item up is determination of general plan consistency for the conveyance of property located at 15837 18th Avenue, assessor parcel number 010-043-010. The recommendation is an adoption resolution PC 2021-02, finding that the conveyance of a 16.280 acre parcel of county-owned property is consistent with the city's general plan and exempt from environmental review. If we can have the staff report, please.
Sure, I'm gonna give the staff report on this one. I'm just gonna quickly put the map up again so you can see it. So the property that we're talking about is right here, just south of 18th Avenue and east of the hospital. Right, it's bisected basically by the new dam road extension that the city installed a couple years back. So it's about 15 or 16 acres, this piece right here. So this is part of a pretty complicated transaction. Some of you may have seen in the press, there was the Board of Supervisors recently had a presentation about this property, but it's owned by the county. It's been talked about for a number of developments over the years. Most recently is veterans housing development 10 or so years ago. And I don't know, unless you have questions, I don't think we need to go into all the backstory, but it's currently involved in a property swap where the state owns the old armory, which is over by the Lake County Jail, and the sheriff wants to move his administrative headquarters from Martin Street over to the armory. And so Senator McGuire has been working with the county on that and has worked a deal that the state will donate that property to the county And in exchange, the county will donate this property to the state, which will then make it fall under the governor's executive order from 2019. It's N-06-19 related to affordable housing. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that when it came out, but basically, among other things, it directs that any state surplus lands be reviewed and used for affordable housing development if appropriate. And so this piece of property that would then fall under that umbrella, and even though it's not in state ownership, thanks to Senator McGuire, the state's already well on their way in using this property as sort of the first rural example of this type of development under the governor's executive order. There's a few other ones that have happened in more urban areas. And so, you know, the city's involvement is this type of thing here. You know, we have land use control over the property because it's within our jurisdiction, even though we don't own it. And so over the last couple of years, we've spent a lot of time coordinating with the senator's office and various state agencies. And we collaborated with the county in sharing kind of a vision of what we'd like to see at that property. Now, of course, to take advantage of the governor's executive order, there has to be an affordable housing component to the project. Even though we feel like in many ways we have more than our share of affordable housing already in our community, we still have the RENA numbers that have the requirements for affordable and other types of housing development that we have to accomplish through our housing element over the next several years, as you're aware. So what we have asked the state to consider is a number of things on this property. One, of course, affordable housing, as well as some market rate housing. We have also provided letters of support and other things from Adventist Health, the VA, and Woodland Community College in hopes that this project would address some of the needs that they have, both for housing as well as perhaps medical office space, perhaps retail uses, or even food service or things like that. You know, I mean, there's a lot of square footage of commercial and retail use just south of this. Of course, the college, hospital, all that stuff is nearby. So we don't have a guarantee that the state is going to end up selecting someone that will develop all of those uses, but that's what we have asked them to try and have developed on this site. If it comes down to the brass tacks, the state really can do what they want and they don't have to ask us. But so far, you know, they've been working with us pretty well. So to back up a little bit, the way this model is going to work is the land will remain state-owned land. They're doing an RFP right now for developers, which closes on February 26th. And so they'll be selecting an interested developer, which will come in basically with a no-cost ground lease to come in and develop whatever uses are a result on this property. And so that will wipe out kind of the land costs and some of the other costs associated with that development, make it more attractive for developers. So, you know, that's kind of the background. They have asked me and someone from the county to sit on the selection committee. So appreciate that. Hopefully that actually happens. But that's kind of the background on where we are. You know, we think overall it's a good project. We do need to see some development there. And we're appreciative of the collaboration with the county and in particular Senator McGuire's office to keep all of the state agencies hopping on the timeline. He's extremely good at that. So I guess with that, that's kind of the staff report, and I'll try to address any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Commissioner McCarrick?
No questions, but thanks for your work, Alan, and the city for working with all the agencies. I caught the tail end of the supervisors meeting, and it's really cool to see. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
No questions at this time.
Vice Chair Coker?
I have no questions at this time. Thank you, though.
Okay. And thank you for your explanation, Alan. You actually answered my questions as you were going through that. Do we have any public comments?
We have not received any public comment on this item, so if anyone is on the Zoom call and wants to make a public comment, please raise your hand. I do not see anyone wishing to make a public comment.
Okay, with no public comments, then that public comment period is now closed. Commissioners, if you have any other further comments for deliberation on this, Commissioner Wilson?
No, thank you.
Commissioner McCarrick?
Nope.
Commissioner Williams?
No.
Vice Chair Coker?
I don't have any. Thank you.
So I will take a motion for the adoption of resolution PC 2021-02.
Okay. I offer resolution number PC 2021-02, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Clearlake General Plan Consistency Determination, GPCD 02-2021, of the disposition of property described as APN 010-043-010-000, address of 15837 18th Avenue.
And do we have a second?
This is Erin. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams and a second by Commissioner McCarrick. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Catherine Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Robert Coker,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron McCarrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Lisa Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fawn Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Okay, it looks like we're on to staff reports.
Okay, a few things. So, I think we've talked about this last meeting. It's been kind of a slow haul, but the Starbucks project was finalized. The lease is signed. We have the building plans that are almost finished. And so that's all a go. I haven't gotten a timeline on when there's going to be dirt flying, but hopefully it's pretty soon. The developer is negotiating with tenants on sort of the second phase of that. Those of you who were on the commission at the time will remember that the use permit approval also included a building to the north of the Starbucks, and there'll be 2 tenants in that building. So they actually have multiple LOIs, and they're just negotiating the best deal. So we'll see what ends up going in there. And then that project also included the large shopping center sign. And so we're expecting building plans on that pretty soon. We have a call with them, I think, tomorrow to finalize some of the details on that. So that's good. And in fact, they had so much, this was the developers of this project, it was, I think, a Smart and Final or something at one point, some small grocery store. And this developer purchased all of the projects when they went bankrupt or something. This is the last property for them to develop because they didn't think there was much opportunity here. But through this process, they've enjoyed working with us. They see the potential, and they actually have bought additional property in the city within the last few months because of the demand that they see. So it's pretty cool. There's been a signed lease for the space between Big Five and Tractor Supply. Finally, we're expecting building plans on that within the next week or so. And so this is not going to be a retail use, which we had hoped for, but we are going to have our own DMV branch again. And so the DMV is going to be moving into that space. So we feel like that'll be good. It's something that be really valuable to the community to have greater access.
Alan, is that the one on Olympic, is that moving over? Will it be a full-time DMV or like the one on Olympic?
The Olympic is just, a private company that can do registrations. This will actually be the DMV.
So full-time DMV.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful.
So some of you were involved in the Highlands Park sort of community meetings related to that over the last couple of months. We finally have finalized the plan for this application. We had to spend a little extra time on it because we had a great plan that was put together. Unfortunately, the full thing was over budget, and so we had to kind of prioritize some of the elements of that plan based on the survey results and the community input that we got. So we're finalizing the application, and we'll be submitting that here pretty soon, but we'll be asking for just a little bit under $4 million. It'll include a lot of nice improvements. So for those of you who participated, there was a great idea that came out of that of an elevated water walkway out in the lake, kind of along the park. Unfortunately, we had to eliminate that from this phase, but there will be a 120-foot pier that extends out into the lake. That's still part of the project. And in taking the walkway away, we actually added some additional length to the sides of that. So there's still a lot of opportunity for fishing. There'll be access for boats and kayaks to pull up and so forth. And so anyway, it's still going to be a pretty exciting project. We're working with some grant consultants that we feel like are going to give us a pretty high likelihood of getting funding, but it's also a pretty competitive program. So we'll see, but definitely exciting to see that plan kind of come together. And there is a second round of funding that's coming available later this year through state parks. And our hope is that we haven't decided for sure yet. There'll be more public input, of course, on this and a few different options, but we may apply for sort of the walkway and some of the other elements that we took out as phase 2 for that program. So we'll see. We do have several use permits that are coming forward that Mark and Suzanne have been working on for a while. So at this time, we are expecting to have both the February 9th and February 23rd Planning Commission meetings. We'll probably have at least a couple of use permits on each of those, assuming everything goes as planned. And it's also likely that we'll have some use permits in March. So I think we got 4 cannabis related applications right now that we're working on: a drive-through bakery, and we're gonna have several other things coming up as well. So there's really a tremendous number of projects in the queue right now that we're working on. And then, of course, I mention this every time, but we're going to continue having more general plan consistency reports, because we're currently going through the list of all the city-owned property, and there's a lot of those properties that we have to make available or make a lot of sense for the homestead program. And then there's just a lot of other, so we want to kind of go through and get all those done and get the process ready, because we do have interest in that program, and we need to make sure and make those properties available as soon as we can. We're kind of trying to do a big chunk of them, and there's some new state requirements for noticing HCD for any property that we want to transfer. And it kind of, it's really frustrating actually. And we're working with Senator McGuire's office to propose some changes to that legislation, but it basically adds 60 to 90 days onto any of these transactions to allow housing developers across the state to express some interest in doing a big multifamily housing development essentially on a 50 by 100 lot, which is a complete waste of everyone's time. So, but anyway, that's what we have to do at this point. And then kind of the final thing that I wanted to mention is just, most of you are familiar with these projects, but kind of the top, you know, we have a ton of them going on. There's several other housing projects, which we've talked about before, but there's 3 really big projects that we want to get a lot of progress on this year. One, of course, is Pierce Field, and we have a lot of exciting things happening out there. And then you're also aware of these are all interconnected, but Redbud Park and the hotel development and some other things. So we're working on that one, which is going to require what's going to end up being a good thing, but going to require the relocation of the baseball, softball fields to the Burns Valley property. And so that's going to be kind of a larger mixed use development as well. And we talked about that briefly earlier under the committee thing. So I think, you know, there's going to be a varying array of commission involvement in some of these. And but you know, they're just exciting projects that we're going to see a lot of additional investment and excitement, I think, generated from each one of them. So looking forward to seeing those develop over the next year. So that's kind of all I have. I don't know if either one of you want to add anything.
Just that we're trying to process the use permits as quick as possible to get them through the process so they can start their development. That's all I had. Do you have anything to add, Susanna?
All right. Any questions?
Thank you.
Looks like Lisa has a question.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan. There's a property tax default sale this week.
There is, yes.
And we have, what's the main property on Lakeshore we're excited about? Is that the Wyzetas
Yeah.
property?
Yes, the old Wyzetas Resort, which is right near Highlands Park. So that one is finally, this is the first time it's on. There's a lot of sewer charges that got added to the tax bill. And so even though it hasn't been in default for super long, maybe 6 or 7 years, the minimum amount owed is like $141,000 on that one. So it's kind of high, but there is a developer that's interested in doing a project there that has promised me that he's going to bid on it. So anyway, hopefully that changes ownership and we have another project moving forward right there on the lake.
That's exciting. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Wilson?
No, thank you.
Okay, McCarrick?
No, thanks.
Commissioner Williams?
No, thank you. Just excited to see the direction things are headed in.
Vice Chair Coker?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
And I would like to thank Vice Chair Coker, Commissioner Williams, and Commissioner Wilson for volunteering for our committees. Thank you guys for our staff reports. Sounds like we have some exciting stuff happening. Are there any other committee reports? Anybody else on any committees that have something to report on? Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone who took the time out to watch our meeting on Zoom and YouTube. And if there is no further business, we will now adjourn the meeting, and it is 6:48.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.